USS Tang was a Balao-class submarine that came into World War II as late as January of 1944. However, its performance would be unmatched during its short career. Tang would savagely harass the Japanese Navy and become a legend in the process, with Commander Richard O'Kane receiving the Medal of Honor for her last 2 engagements. The most successful U.S. submarine in Navy history sank 33 enemy ships in the span of 9 months, but would ultimately fall prey to its very own torpedo. First mission. In December of 1941, Mare Island Naval Shipyard was awarded a contract to build the USS Tang submarine. Tang's keel was laid down in January of 1943 and was launched 7 months later. The submarine was then commissioned in October under Lieutenant Commander Richard O'Kane, the former executive officer of the highly successful USS Wahoo. The Balao-class diesel-electric submarine was delivered to the Navy 6 weeks later. It was crewed by 87 sailors and armed with 24 torpedoes. USS Tang was fitted out at Mare Island before moving to San Diego for training. The submarine then sailed to Hawaii and arrived at Pearl Harbor in January of 1944. 2 more weeks of exercises were required before going into combat. The submarine finally departed from the Hawaiian base on January 22nd and headed to the Caroline and Mariana Islands for its first war patrol. Almost 4 weeks later, Tang came across a Japanese convoy with 2 freighters, 5 smaller ships, and an escort. The American crew tracked the convoy and plotted the course. While preparing for an attack, an escort suddenly appeared at 7,000 yards while closing in. The submarine was forced to dive as deep as possible and underwent 5 depth charges. However, it avoided any damage and returned to periscope depth after the threat had passed. Tang then resumed its attack as the nearest freighter was roughly at 1,500 yards. The submarine fired 4 torpedoes, of which 3 hit the Gyoten Maru and sank it by the stern. After clearing the area, O'Kane planned for another assault at dawn, but the remaining freighter was protected by aircraft and escaped. On the night of February 22nd, Tang tracked and attacked 3 cargo ships and 2 escorts. The submarine shadowed the Japanese convoy through rain squalls, rendering its radars for the most part useless. Then, after 30 minutes, the submarine surfaced and struck, hitting Fukuyama Maru 4-fold and disintegrating her immediately. By the morning, Tang targeted the convoy's lead ship, Yamashima Maru, and fired 3 torpedoes. The ship spouted flames as it sank. 2 days later, the submarine sighted a tanker, a freighter, and a destroyer. Once again, rain squalls hampered the attack attempt. However, the submarine tracked the ships until past nightfall to get a good firing position and then charged against the Tarutaki Maru-class freighter, scoring 3 hits and sinking her. The accompanying 2 ships then opened fire in all directions, and Tang began performing evasive maneuvers, submerging and tracking the enemy through the night. An opportunity to attack suddenly came from a dangerously close range. At merely 500 yards, the submarine was barely able to arm, but then fired and sank Echizen Maru. A depth charge attack against Tang ensued, which caused a water leak in the forward torpedo room. She then exceeded its maximum depth gauge, but the crew was able to control it and return to the surface. On February 26th, the boat spotted another Japanese convoy consisting of a freighter, transport, and 4 escorts. After positioning to attack, Tang launched its last 4 torpedoes and thought it had missed, but the Joint Army-Navy Committee later credited her with sinking the cargo ship Choko Maru. Out of 24 fired torpedoes, Tang had scored 16 hits. She then headed to Midway to refit. An impressive career. During Tang's second patrol, which started on March 16th, the submarine cruised the waters around the Palau Islands, the Davao Gulf, and the Truk Atoll. Despite making 5 surface contacts, Tang had no chance to attack and was therefore assigned to lifeguard duty. She then rescued 22 downed Navy airmen near Truk and got them safely to Hawaii. Her next mission took her to the East China Sea and the Yellow Sea. On her 3rd patrol, Tang sank more Japanese ships than any other submarine patrol during the war. By late June, the crew spotted a convoy with 6 large vessels, shielded by no less than 16 escorts southwest of Kagoshima. It was reported that 2 ships were then sunk in 2 consecutive spreads, but a post-war analysis revealed that it was actually 4 vessels. A week later, Tang came across a solitary cargo ship. the submarine chased the target and closed in to 750 yards. Though only one torpedo hit Nikin Maru, the ship was blown in half and dragged over 3,000 Japanese soldiers with her. The following morning, Tang sank a freighter but was evaded by a tanker that accompanied the ship. Still, the submarine chased the tanker and finally sank her past nightfall. By July 4th, there was another celebration with the sinking of Azkazan Maru. Moreover, Tang also sank Yamaoka Maru that same afternoon and went on to sink Dori Maru the following night. Tang's fourth patrol began on July 31st, and by August 11th, the submarine located 2 freighters and 2 escorts, launching 5 torpedoes against the freighters. Roku Maru, the larger one, exploded when a torpedo hit her boilers. As she began to sink, the crew heard the 4th and 5th torpedoes hitting the second ship. Over the next 38 minutes, the submarine endured a rough depth charge attack. However, she quickly returned to periscope depth, from where she could make out the 2 Japanese escorts, with one of them retrieving survivors. 3 days later, Tang smashed a patrol yacht's deckhouse with its deck gun, and within a week, she sank a 225-foot patrol boat. Before returning to Pearl Harbor in late August, the submarine would sink another grand ship and a tanker using the last of her torpedoes. An unexpected ending. Tang's final patrol called for the remarkable submarine to sail through a critical shipping route for the Nippon Empire, the Taiwan Strait. Commander O'Kane was given the option to join an attack group, but he decided that they would sail on their own. A succession of victories continued for a while, but its luck would eventually run out. On October 23rd, the crew came into contact with a large convoy of 3 tankers, a transport, and a freighter, accompanied by many escorts. O'Kane then prepared for a night surface attack. When they were ready, Tang broke into the Japanese formation and charged forward, firing torpedoes in all directions. Every single torpedo hit its mark, and several ships began burning or sinking. However, the attack came to a halt as the transport and a tanker attempted to ram the submarine. But she swiftly evaded them and caused them to impact each other. Then, as Tang headed for open water, she fired a round of 4 torpedoes and sank both vessels. In the morning, Tang surfaced and found that her radars were almost useless, showing too many blips. She then identified a vast convoy that included tankers and transport-carrying aircraft. As Tang tracked the convoy, the Japanese escorts began searching for her with a searchlight. The light also illuminated the Japanese ships, and Tang was able to choose her targets. She then fired 2 torpedoes at a substantial transport, 2 at a smaller one, and another 2 at a tanker. The submarine quickly paralleled the convoy and targeted her next victims, another transport and a tanker. Tang then escaped the area at full speed as the ships exploded and sank. At 2:30 in the morning on October 25th, Tang launched its last torpedo. The 24th projectile, a Mark 18 electric torpedo that was a copy of the German G7E, was known to malfunction. After launching it, the torpedo suddenly broached, curving to the left into a circular run. By the time the crew realized the torpedo was heading straight towards them, they had barely 15 seconds before impact. The skipper then ordered to accelerate immediately, fishtailing under emergency power. But Tang struggled to get ahead of the torpedo, and it was too late. 20 seconds after firing, the Mark 18 warhead struck the empty aft torpedo room, and half the 87-man crew perished on the spot. The rear compartments flooded rapidly, sinking the submarine's stern first, but the buoyancy of the unflooded bow kept it above the surface. The commanding officer and 2 other men on the bridge managed to swim to the surface. One officer swam out of the conning tower, but could not close the hatch. Eventually, the boat bottomed at 180 feet. About 30 men crowded the forward torpedo room and burned sensitive documents. But a Japanese depth charge assault delayed their escape, and a fire in the forward battery worsened the situation. However, some sailors managed to escape, and it was the first time that there were survivors from a sunken U.S. submarine without assistance from the surface. In addition, it was also the first time that a rebreather known as the Mumsen lung was employed to escape. Out of 13 sailors who got out of the forward torpedo room, only 8 reached the surface, and just 5 survived. 9 survivors were eventually picked up by a Japanese frigate. Some of the enemy crew had escaped previous sinkings by the submarine, and they wanted revenge. O'Kane later said, quote, "When we realized that our clubbing and kickings were being administered by the burned, mutilated survivors of our handiwork, we found we could take it with less prejudice." The 9 American survivors were taken as prisoners for the remainder of the war. Legacy. USS Tang received 4 battle stars and 2 Presidential Unit citations for his service during World War II, and Commander Richard O'Kane was awarded the Medal of Honor. After the war, it was confirmed that Tang sank a total of 33 ships during its short career, amounting to 116,454 tons. This feat was unequaled by any other American submarine, and Tang is regarded as the most successful submarine from World War II. It also retains the record as the best patrol by the number of ships she sunk. The submarine went on to appear in several films, TV shows, and video games, and she's memorialized at the interactive exhibit in the National World War II Museum of New Orleans. Thank you for watching our video. Please let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Also hit the like button and subscribe to Dark Seas and all our Dark Documentaries channels for more historical content.